Hey guys, it's ayebeepee and welcome back to my channel. I've got my bachelor's in criminal justice and a minor in psychology, and I'm gonna say that for the next 39 videos because I'm just so proud of myself. On top of that, I am a board member for a nonprofit called Voices for the Silenced, and we help missing person cases mostly around West Virginia. We really help the families and friends of missing loved ones get any type of resources or anything they need and help with their search. If you have a missing loved one in the West Virginia area, please get a hold of us and we'll do what we can. And welcome back to the most wonderful time of the year, October. And that means we are here with a Crimetober video today. But as you can tell from the title of this video, we are going to be talking about Taylor Wright today. So let's just get right in. Taylor was born in Jacksonville, North Carolina. This town was a lot of military family. She was 33 years old at the time of all of this, and she was just a very outgoing, kind, full of life person. She would give you the shirt off her back. She was a great mother, and she was just described as a breath of fresh air and just had big ideas for her life. And she was also known to adore her family. Now, in her career, she was first a police officer, and let me tell you, this woman loved being a police officer. She loved being in the uniform. She loved helping people. She loved just getting the bad guys off the street. And she really just didn't complain ever about going to work. She was so proud of being a police officer and a good one. But later in her career, she did end up becoming a private investigator. And in a town that was full of military people, she did meet a man named Jeff Wright who was in the military. He was deployed often, but that didn't stop them from getting married and having a son named Drake. They did not last. They did end up having a very ugly divorce. Jeff ended up getting custody of Drake, but that didn't stop Taylor from doing everything she could to stay in Drake's life. She would call him every night. She was ordered to pay child support, and she was actively fighting all of this in court. She wanted custody of her son. She wanted to be more involved. But because the divorce got so ugly, she did end up hiding money from Jeff, and it did end up being about $100,000. She did end up splitting this $100,000 to be put in multiple places, so it was harder to track. And during this time, she had moved to Pensacola, Florida to try to get her life back on track and together to have Drake in it. And as soon as she got there, she immediately applied to be a Pensacola police officer. Now, she did meet a girl named Ashley MacArthur when she was down there that did help her hide about $30,000 of that $100,000 she had taken out of their joint bank account. Ashley said, "I'll put it in the safety deposit box. You let me know when you need it. We'll go and get it out." When she moved to Pensacola, she did meet this woman named Cassandra Waller. She was a school administrator, and they had just met through one of the dating apps, and they really hadn't been together long when everything happened, just a few months, but they were together long enough to get some serious feelings about each other. And they did end up moving in together, but Taylor did keep a lot of her stuff in almost like a moving truck outside of Cassandra's place. Now, I want to circle back around and talk about Ashley MacArthur, the girl that helped her hide her money. She was born in 1977 in Florida. She really came from a pretty normal middle-class family. She had been Taylor's friend about a year before everything happened to her, and they hung out close to 2 to 3 times a week. They were together a lot. And honestly, she would have done anything for Ashley. In 2001, Ashley did enroll in University of West Florida, and she had gotten a degree in forensic science and technology. Now, she did marry a guy named Zach MacArthur in 2014. He was a police officer at the sheriff's department, and he actually worked a little bit with Taylor when she was a PI, which is how they ended up meeting, and he ended up introducing Taylor to Ashley. Now, she did get a job as a crime scene investigator, but she had gotten in a car wreck shortly after that completely messed her back up. So she was really only able to work there for about 6 months before she ended up having to quit. Now, her family did own a business called Sticks Billiards, and from what I understand, it rented out arcade games and bar type games, and so she went back to work at that. Now, this family business was sold in 2016, but Ashley did seem to stay pretty close to the new owner. And when I say pretty close, I mean she ended up having an affair with him. She spent a lot of money on this affair. She bought him supplies for his business. She bought him a boat. She paid his bills, bought him a motorcycle. She bought him 4 AR-15s and 4 revolvers. She went to that business every single day of the summer of 2017. So this affair was hot and heavy. And he said Ashley was known to kind of not think of money as anything important. She spent it on everyone around her and anyone she really loved. So when Taylor gave her this $30,000, Ashley said she put it in her safety deposit box. But if we're being real, she put it directly into her bank account. So by the time Taylor needed this money back, Ashley had spent it all. She did use a lot of it to pay off her credit card debt, but this is also the money she used to buy her other man, I guess, a motorcycle. About a month and a half before everything happened, Taylor was caught cheating on Cassandra. From what I understand, Taylor just never quit talking to the girl that she talked to before she got with Cassandra. So Cassandra did tell Taylor to get out of her life. And Taylor begged for Cassandra to hear her out. Please meet me at Ashley's house at 5:30 to talk about this. I want to make things right. And during this time period, Taylor also started smoking weed, and Cassandra just wasn't a big fan of that. And in the week before everything happened, Taylor did start kind of hounding Ashley for her money. She really needed it. Hey, listen, this business is really busy right now. I will get to you as soon as I can, but I can't really just do it right now. Well, Taylor started feeling like Ashley was making up excuses to the point that Taylor talked to Cassandra about it. And on September 7th, 2017, Taylor had a court date that she ended up getting pushed back till September 12th because she needed this money to be put back in the account before she went to court. And that night on the 7th, Cassandra and Taylor went to dinner. Cassandra said Taylor seemed very anxious. She just talked about how she didn't really trust Ashley with the money anymore. She didn't know why she couldn't get it back, but she needed it back ASAP. This was about her son and divorce. And she just felt like something was not right about this situation. So the next day on September 8th, Taylor woke up and fixed her and Cassandra breakfast. I think she fixed eggs and bacon. And Cassandra said Taylor just really didn't seem like anything was wrong. She did say that her and Ashley were going to go to the bank today, so maybe she just felt relieved. So around 10 a.m., Ashley came to pick Taylor up, and Cassandra was leaving at the same time. So Taylor ended up giving her a hug and a kiss and told her she loved her, she would see her later. Now, Cassandra stayed texting Taylor pretty much this whole day. Now, Taylor did seem very agitated, I think was the word used, and just extremely stressed. She did quit texting back though around 11:30 for a while. Now, Cassandra ended up calling Ashley when she didn't hear back from her for a while, and Ashley just said she had went to her family's farm with Taylor so they could ride horses and blow off some steam. That Ashley would have her call her back when she was done riding because Taylor didn't have her phone on her right then. She had told Cassandra that Taylor just seemed very emotional, so she thought this would kind of calm her down before they went to the bank. And she did tell Cassandra, "I'll have Taylor call you as soon as she's done." But then she didn't really hear from Taylor in spite of texting her ever since she had gotten off the phone with Ashley. And then Taylor also didn't show up for dinner plans. Cassandra continuously texted Taylor since pretty much the minute she got off the phone with Ashley, but Taylor never really responded, and she didn't show up for dinner plans. She didn't get a text from Taylor's phone until 7 p.m. and the text said, "I'll call you later. I'm not angry with you and I should have called, but I just need to think. I'm trying to get my life organized and on track." Now, Cassandra has came out and said she does not think at this point that was actually Taylor texting her, but it was from her phone. A few days later, on September 10th, Cassandra did try to report Taylor missing. The police did explain, listen, people are allowed to leave their lives. That's not a crime. And to be just completely honest, they weren't that concerned because of that last text message. They did suggest that Cassandra get a hold of Jeff Wright and see if he had heard from her since they were going through this like nasty custody battle. And Jeff said that Drake had been trying to get a hold of his mom but could not get an answer. And that was just not like Taylor. Taylor would disappear from life every now and then just because it would get hard. But the thing was, is she called Drake every night, no matter what she was doing, where she was at, what situation she was in. So then Cassandra just started calling hospitals to see if Taylor was admitted anywhere because she just could not think of any other leads, really. The next day, on the 11th, she finally got a hold of Ashley, and she told Ashley to come over and get all of Taylor's shit because at this point, Cassandra just assumed Taylor really did leave her. But then on September 12th, Taylor missed her court date, and this sent alarm bells off again. So Cassandra went back to the police on September 14th at 4:35 p.m. and filed Taylor officially missing. The investigators that worked this case were Chad Wilhite and Robert Gigliotti. Now, they immediately went to Jeff Wright and looking into him. They assumed since they were in this really nasty custody battle, there was money involved, it could get really ugly, and this just seemed like the clear first person to look into. And he explained pretty much what I said earlier to the police, that Taylor did leave from time to time. It just kind of was who she was. But one thing was that she always contacted Drake every day. So he thought it was crazy she hadn't talked to him at this point, maybe 5, 6, 7 days, almost a week. And he ended up giving them their alibi, which completely checked out. He wasn't even in town at the time of her disappearance. I heard it was for like military purposes, but I'm not like 100% about that. So then once they completely cleared Jeff, the next rational person was the significant other. So they really did start looking into Cassandra. Now, Cassandra was a complete open book. She helped every step of the way, even when there was tension, because she knew they were digging into her life to make sure she didn't do anything to Taylor. She still understood what they were doing and tried as hard as she could to have always a respectful tone and just be respectful with the police. When they would interview Cassandra, they also was going through her phone in another room to see if there was any clues or she had said anything about hurting Taylor. But later on in this interview, Cassandra actually brings up to the police that Taylor was a little worried about her money when it came to Ashley having it. So that was like a little red flag. Oh, so this money situation is linked to someone else. Now, they completely searched Cassandra and her place. They had even found a $19,000 check that was for Taylor out of that $100,000. And so that made them think, if Taylor was running away, why would she not take this cashier's check for $19,000 with her? That money would be so helpful. And they did such an in-depth search of Cassandra and her place that Gigliotti was even like crawling underneath the house to make sure she wasn't like put there. And then they even got so bold to even just point blank ask Cassandra, did you kill Taylor? But Cassandra was completely cleared also. So the next person to go to was Ashley. Now, Ashley was tricky because she had worked in law enforcement and her husband worked as a police officer. So they had to be very careful on how much information they made public about looking into Ashley, because it would have been really easy for her and her husband to be tipped off that they were being looked into. Now, when they asked Ashley about this day, they said that Taylor was unusually quiet, but she just kind of thought that, maybe she was stoned. She did have a Yeti cup full of beer, so maybe she was buzzed a little bit, but she just didn't think much of it. She said that they went and got her money and Taylor put it in a duffel bag, and Ashley said they got to her house around 5 p.m. She then said that Taylor got an Uber because she wanted to go get another beer and kind of just go out. Ashley said she still seemed almost nervous at this time, so she didn't really fight her and just kind of let her go. She did offer to take Taylor to her car, but Taylor said she didn't want to be driving where she had been drinking, so she'll just take this Uber. And Ashley was for sure the last person to be seen with Taylor. She did end up telling the police that Taylor was seeing another girl behind Cassandra's back and how they had gotten in a fight about it. And then she told them about this safety deposit box she supposedly had. She said that she put this money for Taylor in her safety deposit box because she needed it somewhere where Jeff couldn't find it. Taylor said she thought about getting her own safety deposit box, but then Jeff could figure out she had it. Ashley said that Taylor told her a sob story about Jeff taking all their money and trying to control her with it. Ashley said Taylor said Jeff was abusive, and that's why she was working so hard to get her life together and get her son back. Ashley even told police that she did not think that Taylor was hurt at all. She thought Taylor was being Taylor, and pretty much told the police she just thought maybe she was on a drug binge or just disappearing for a while. Now, the police did track all of Ashley's text messages and location on her phone, and it turned out that Ashley's family did not have just that one farm in East Milton that she told Cassandra her and Taylor were horseback riding, but there was a whole other family farm that wasn't mentioned at all. And Ashley just seemed really annoyed at the investigation, especially during her second interview. She complained that she was stuck with all of Taylor's stuff at her office, and she kept referring to Taylor in past tense. Now, they looked into phone records, especially Taylor's, and would you know that her phone was pinging at one of the farms that Ashley's family owned. And then Taylor's phone pinged at a wedding in Alabama that, ironically enough, Ashley attended the day Taylor went missing. And when they asked around and looked at pictures, Taylor was nowhere to be seen. So why was her phone there? Now, Ashley's phone proved that she actually didn't go to the family farm in East Milton until like later that day. So why would she tell Cassandra they were there horseback riding? Her phone actually pinged at the other family farm on Britt Road, almost that whole morning, afternoon time. She even made multiple calls while she was at that property. Now, the police did subpoena bank records, and when they did that, it proved that Ashley never had a safety deposit box, ever. And there also was a $34,000 deposit into Ashley's bank account. And then the next day, it was transferred to different accounts. It was taken down to zero that exact same day. And so they started looking at these checks that were depositing it in different bank accounts, and none of them were Taylor's true signature. So then the bank records were able to show where to look up security footage. And boy, they got Ashley right on camera. Multiple ATM machines and, banks. So from the bank records, they were able to figure out that Ashley went to Home Depot. So they went and got the security footage of this, and she was buying soil and concrete. They also contacted Uber to see if Taylor truly did take an Uber that day when she was at Ashley's house, and she hadn't used Uber in months. On October 9th, 2017, they had their second interview with Ashley. She was, like I was kind of explaining earlier, pretty closed off and annoyed by this point in time. I would like to point out that before the second interview, Ashley was calling the police almost daily for updates. So why being called for a second interview is making you so closed off and annoyed when you're consistently getting a hold of the police? Ashley did end up saying in this interview that they did go to Britt Road Farm first. They said Taylor had some things there in a lockbox that she wanted to get, but she had told Ashley to never tell anybody about it. So that's why she didn't bring it up. And she just didn't think it was that important of information. And around an hour and 20 minutes into this interview, Ashley caught on that these police are on to me and immediately stopped the interview and asked for a lawyer. And while this interview was going on, the police actually had a search warrant for Ashley's house, where they found Taylor's passport and money. Now, the police also had the search warrant for the farm. And while they were searching, they found an area that had just a little different foliage going on over there. So they ended up moving branches and bushes, and they ended up finding Taylor's body right there. There was a gunshot wound to the back of her skull. They had found Taylor's necklace she usually wore, which was kind of an indicator this must have been her. And she was wrapped in a hammock, I think. And there was a mixture of potting soil and concrete poured all over her, like the concrete powder like you'd buy at Home Depot. And they ultimately proved this body was Taylor's through dental records. And as soon as Taylor's remains were confirmed, they arrested Ashley that night for first-degree murder. Now, during Ashley's trial, they pretty much painted the story that Taylor went to pick up her money from Ashley that day she disappeared. Ashley didn't clearly have it, and that is why she ended up killing Taylor. So then she gave the gun that she used to kill Taylor to her lover, the person that bought her family's business, and had him sell it for her. And then she used Taylor's phone for the rest of the day to make her seem like she was still alive. Jeff Wright ended up testifying in this trial. He said he had even reached out to Ashley on Facebook to figure out what happened to Taylor. And she just told him she was really nervous on how the court hearing would go. And she said when she last saw Taylor, she had 2 backpacks full of money. He reiterated that it was normal for Taylor to, kind of up and leave sometimes, but he knew she would contact his son every single night, no matter what. And the defense still tried to kind of pick at him and make it seem like he could have killed her for money, but they never outwardly came out and said it, just kind of caused that doubt. But thankfully the jury kind of saw through that. Cassandra did testify and pretty much reiterated the same stuff she talked about with the police. And then there was a witness named Audrey Warner that testified. She knew Ashley and claimed that Ashley planned to kill Taylor. She had tried to hurt Taylor before she ever went missing. She had said she wanted to put cocaine in her beer, and she tried it, but Taylor said the beer tasted sour or old, and so she just threw it out. And Audrey Warner said, she said the world would be a better place if Taylor wasn't here, and she wasn't a good person. She said she was too small to hurt anybody, so she would shoot them. Now, the defense did have a few different points to argue. They said looking at the concrete that Ashley bought compared to the concrete that was found on Taylor was actually different. The one that bought would have been very grainy and fine, but the cement found on Taylor was almost chunkier, if that makes sense. And Ashley had other projects in her house she actually did need concrete for. You can't just guarantee she bought this to put on Taylor. They also said this investigation lacked a few things. It lacked DNA, it lacked a murder weapon, and they just weren't sure about the certain time of death. But ultimately, Ashley was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 25 years. And while she was sentenced, I guess it could have been shock, but she didn't blink. She didn't cry. She did not really show hardly any emotion. And I also just want to throw this in here. This happened before her murder trial for Taylor. Ashley actually had a whole other trial for completely different circumstances. She was also arrested for racketeering and fraud. She not only had stole this money from Taylor, but she was skimping thousands of dollars from that family-owned business. She had also set the building on fire to try to get rid of these financial documents. So in January 2019, she was also found guilty for these charges, and she was sentenced to another 84 months in prison. And then for whatever reason she would ever get out, she won't, but she would also have 3 years of probation. Now, Jeff really stayed away from the media. I think he's just trying to have as normal of a life for him and Drake, which I completely respect. But some reports say that he has gotten remarried and he's living in Alabama. Cassandra still lives in Florida, from my understanding. She works at the Escampa public school system still, and she assists families and students that are experiencing homelessness. This woman is just a gem. And in 2020, she had even received a CODA award for how well she has been doing and the progress she's making in the school system. And wow, what this case is nuts, right? It's so sad. I'll never understand why money was worth somebody's life. I'll never understand it, ever. So what are your thoughts about this case? Where were your first red flags? Let me go ahead and do that. Put in the comments what your first red flags about Ashley having this money was. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe for me, and hit that notification button. That way you're notified the next time I upload. And I still have a GoFundMe going for Crystal Young. If you haven't watched her video yet, you need to, because you need to know why her mom needs this PI so bad. I still have stickers for sale. They're $2 each, and all proceeds go to the Cold Case Foundation, so it is for a good cause. And thank you guys again so much for watching, and I hope you're having a great October, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.